Welcome back to the Student Pages podcast, lockdown edition. I'm joined today by an American guest, a young actress who's been in all sorts of things, most recently on the Netflix series Ozark as a character called Erin Pierce. Madison Thompson, how are you, Madison?
I am hanging in there. How about you?
I'm doing all right. You're in Atlanta at the moment.
Yes, I am. Most of the year I live in Los Angeles. That's where I go to school. In addition to a lot of the work I do is shot out there. But right now I am back home, hunkered down with my family. So I'm coming to you from my bedroom.
Do you travel around? You travel around a lot normally. Is this kind of...
Yes. So for Ozark, at least, that actually shot here in Atlanta. And I started working on the show right at the end of my senior year of high school. So I was living here and I obviously was working here, but then I decided to attend a university in Los Angeles, the University of Southern California, which meant I was commuting cross country 2 times a week for like the first month and a half of school.
So they don't actually film Ozark in the Ozarks?
They do not. It is shot all here in Atlanta. We have a lot of lakes and stuff like that that are really similar to the Ozarks. So all of the overhead shots, they'll send out a crew to go shoot like drone footage for that. So that is all the actual Ozarks in Arkansas, Missouri. But everything that you see that has human beings in it, that's all shot in Atlanta.
Okay. Wow. Okay. I didn't know that. I feel kind of lied to, but it's all right.
I guess that's the magic of television.
Of course. We don't know that all the smoke and mirrors involved in Netflix produced TV shows. Must be crazy working on something like that. Have you got any kind of sort of stories from being on set? And
I definitely have a lot. I think what most people don't realize about our show is obviously, yes, it is shot in Atlanta, like in the Ozarks, what we make of the Ozarks, but we shoot so much of it outside, which means that we are battling the elements, we battle the bugs, we're shooting on lakes and swamps and stuff like that, because we want to be true to what the environment is of the Ozarks and everything that comes with that. But with that comes a lot of challenges. I was actually talking to my mom yesterday about, because I have like memories that'll come up on my phone from, we were shooting at this time last year. And we had a day where we shot a scene on the beach. And it's a scene where Jonah is shooting like beer cans that Tommy set up for him. And the whole scene is actually pretty long and broken up into different scenes. So we had shot it we had practiced and rehearsed it in the morning. It had firearms involved. So obviously we have to go through and choreograph it like very specifically.
You had real guns?
I'm not exactly sure. I think for part of it, they use like some kind of like fake gun, but it has like blanks in it, I think. It has blanks, so it makes a noise and it fires back. And then the way that we shot the bottles exploding at the same time is they would put like little like firecrackers or like dynamite or something in the bottles so that it looked like when he shot and it made the noise, it exploded at the same time. Obviously not my area of expertise. But while we were shooting that scene, we kind of choreographed it all in the morning when it was shaded because we wanted the sun to come out because we were shooting at the beach and like that was the nature of the scene. So we broke for lunch and then came back and started shooting, and we had kind of shot the beginning of the scene without shoes on. And then the sun came out and the like sand was like fire. Like we couldn't walk, but we had already shot half the scene with our shoes off. So we had to go around with the people who were like part of our props team and stuff like that and spray different areas of the sand with water. So if you've like looked at the behind the scene footage or just like from afar, us shooting the scene, we were like hopping into different spots around the scene just to like get through. And then in post-production, they had to like specifically pick the right angles so we didn't look like bunny rabbits throughout the entire scene.
God, yeah. I didn't even think about how the sand gets so hot.
It does. And it was hot outside and we were lathered up in sunscreen because, you get halfway through the scene and it's in the afternoon and all of a sudden you have a sunburn that wasn't there at the beginning of the scene. So.
Goodness. Do you spot any mistakes like watching it back where you're like, oh, they didn't cover that thing up very well? Or
No, they do a pretty good job. I mean, what's great is I came in season 3 of this show, so they were a well-oiled machine. I feel like maybe something like, I mean, the classic one I think of is the Game of Thrones like episode where they have like the Starbucks coffee in it. But Ozark, that was hilarious. But Ozark is really good about making sure, we're authentic to the environment. The only problem that we do run into sometimes is because we're shooting on a public lake, we can't like cut off the entire lake. So we'll have people just kind of come on through the scene in their boats, and like we'll block off the lake for safety reasons sometimes, or for noise and stuff like that, because you won't be able to hear us. Say we're shooting on a dock and there's boats going by, you can hear the motors and it messes up the sound. But obviously, like, it's public, so people can kind of do whatever they want. So every once in a while I will see a boat and I'll be like, I remember that scene where those people just kept driving by and we like couldn't ask them to leave. But usually people cooperate pretty well, but there's definitely been some fun heckling stories.
For those people who don't know, actually, maybe we should do you want to just explain briefly, like the premise of Ozark and the character that you play?
Totally. I probably should have started with that, but Ozark is a show that is on Netflix. It stars Jason Bateman and Laura Linney, and it pretty much it follows their family, the Bird family, and they get wrapped up with the Mexican drug cartel, which brings its own set of issues, to say the least. And they end up moving to the Ozarks in the first episode of the season. I promise I'm not spoiling that much. It happens very quickly, in order to work out a deal with the cartel and to go into business with them. And Marty and Wendy are pretty much working to keep their family alive, because the cartel could kill them at any second. And with moving to the Ozarks brings so many different personalities and backstories and stuff that they end up getting wrapped up in that I don't think they ever really intended to. And so the show kind of explores their life in the Ozarks and their run-ins with the cartel and how they have to use kind of their smarts to get out of the situation. And so in season 3, there is a character named Erin Pierce, who I play on the show. She is the daughter of Helen Pierce, who is introduced in season 2 as the lawyer for the Navarro drug cartel. And during the 3rd season, you will get to see my character mouth off and pretty much try to ruin every situation ever. But it was such an amazing experience to work on the show. And I'm so lucky to have been able to be a part of this cast. So you should check it out if you haven't.
That was such a comprehensive summary of everything. That was so good.
Thank you. I've had to do it a couple times.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah. Are Jason Bateman and Laura Linney nice? I bet Laura Linney's so nice, right?
They are. This is by far my favorite show that I've ever worked on. Every single person on this show is just like, it's insane how kind and hardworking they are. Jason was, I think, the first person I met. The first day I came to work on the show, I was cast really, really quickly. And so it was like a turnaround of 1 week. I was shooting a scene with the lady who plays my mom, Janet McTeer, who's actually a very famous British actress. And it was a scene with her, and Jason was actually directing the scene. So I feel like I was immediately thrown into the world that is Ozark, because not only is Jason the star of our show, but he produces it and he directs it. So I really got to understand, what is the culture of this set? How does it work? Like, what is the style of this show? And so he was incredible to work with. Not only to watch him direct himself and other people and then jump into a scene and work. I'd never worked on a set where the director was also in the scene at the same time. So that was a really cool experience. And then Laura Linney is probably the most incredible women I've ever experienced, met in my entire life. She is so hardworking, so kind. She's a mom. So, she approaches even being one of the younger people on the set, she was so kind and always looking out for me. Same with the lady who played my mom. I can't say a bad thing about anyone because they're all they're
both amazing in the show as well. Like Jason Bateman and Laura Linney, the way that they play their characters is they almost seem like there's a kind of comedy to how unfazed they are by everything.
It's like a dark comedy. When you look at the situation, you're like, wow, this is so screwed up. Like, why is this happening? But at the same time, the manner in which they're navigating the situations and I mean, one of my favorite lines is from season 1, and it's like when Laura Linney's character goes, yeah, your dad works for a Mexican drug cartel, and just like flat out tells them, like something that most parents wouldn't do. But it's just, I mean, I think that's what brings brevity to the show and makes it watchable, because it's dark and there's some tough content in it, but because they have this like humor infused into it, it's like the perfect balance.
Jason Bateman can do this kind of gormless facial expression that is just hilarious. Like when his character finds himself in just a sort of a situation that is just impossible to navigate for anyone, and he's just completely baffled and has no idea what to do.
And you've probably seen him in other stuff. His character is very similar to his natural personality, where it's just this air of like rolling with the punches. But he is hilarious, and just as funny off screen as he is on screen.
Brilliant. I actually found there was a news story recently about the Ozarks. I don't know if you knew about this. There was a huge pool party in the Ozarks, and someone there had coronavirus. The person from Boone County arrived at the Lake of the Ozarks on Saturday, May 23rd, and attended the pool party that evening, and again on Sunday, May 24th. They also dined at a Buffalo Wild Wings restaurant that day. I don't know what that is. Sounds nice.
That definitely sounds like a party that Erin would have wanted to go to.
Oh, okay. Brilliant.
With coronavirus and everything, so doesn't faze me one bit.
Are there really restaurants open in the US at the moment?
Honestly, it depends by state. So in like California, New York, they're on way more of a lockdown than we are, so it's a lot more takeout. But in Georgia, where I live, they opened up really, really early, and it's a lot of like outdoor dining, or if there is restaurants, you're separated and there's a lot of protocol. But for me, for my safety and for my family's safety, we've just stuck with staying here. It's safer. So we'll order in.
How long have you been? How long have you been like stuck in?
I have been in my house, pretty much not leaving other than to get groceries and such like that, since March 14th. So almost 3 months now.
Wow.
Yeah.
So probably about the same amount of time for me. I was in France, so I was doing my year abroad from university in France, and their lockdown started like 3 weeks before the UK lockdown. So I was there, and then I came here, and there was no lockdown here.
Yeah, there's just, everyone's kind of on a different page because everyone's being affected differently. So, and especially with the United States, it's kind of in the power of each individual state to make that decision. So there's 50 different protocols currently.
Crazy. That's crazy. Are people still moving between states, or is everyone kind of staying?
At first, I think definitely in the month of April, people were really not traveling. I remember looking up plane tickets, and to go to Boston, it was like $18 round trip, which is just absolutely unheard of. Now I think people are traveling more in between states, but I think more for like necessary purposes. If they're going to like vacation in like another house that they have, or they're going to like visit their grandparents or something, it's more essential. It's not essential travel in the sense that they have to do it, but it's definitely, there's a thought process that goes before you walk out the door.
A friend of mine just got back from, he's from California, but he studies over here. And he came back from California, and he was at the airport, and he was like asking about how full the flight was. And they said, oh, your flight's completely booked. And he was like, what? He was like, how can the flight be completely booked? And then he found out that pretty much everyone on the plane was changing from New Zealand, and there's like no cases in New Zealand. So he was like, oh, thank God.
Oh, okay, good. I was like, that's terrifying. I know a lot of the planes here have like, they're at half capacity, and that's just how they fill it up. But it's going to be really weird traveling for the next year.
If you're in a plane, I mean, you're breathing the same air as everyone else. So that just seems like a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, exactly.
So Ozark is quite different from some of the other things you've worked on.
That's an understatement to say the least. Very different. I guess that's.
Sorry, it's the Zoom thing. No, carry on.
Oh no, I was just gonna say. I guess that's the fun part about being an actress is that I can go from one super dramatically dark project to like an ABC sitcom in like a couple weeks.
But the thing that interested me, particularly piqued my interest on your IMDb, was you worked on a Nickelodeon show, right?
Yes.
Called Henry Danger. And I used to watch Nickelodeon comedies like all the time, like iCarly, like Wizards of Waverly Place, like stuff like that. And I always wondered like how they make those and like what it's like working on one of those. And also what the Kids' Choice Awards is like. It seems like the most mental American show I could possibly imagine.
Yes, so that was quite a long time ago, but a really cool experience. You know, I grew up watching iCarly as well, and I think it's Dan Schneider who is the creator of all these shows that he's created a ton of them. So what was so cool was the fact that he was on set, and I was like, wow, I mean, I have grown up watching every single show that you've ever created, and now I'm standing in front of you working on material that you have written for me, which was so cool. And it was a really small role on the show, but it definitely, there is a lot of skill that goes into working on like a multi-camera show. It's a whole different skill set. It's a lot more similar to like a theatrical performance than something on Ozark where it's like one or two cameras. And you're playing on a stage. Henry Danger didn't have a live audience, but I worked behind the scenes on a show called Liv and Maddie on Disney Channel that did, and that's a whole other performance level thing that the actors have to train and do. But it's amazing. The blocking is different, and there's, you know, it's comedy too, and it's like a different level comedy. It's not like The Office or something like that. It's children's comedy, so it's very specific in the beats and the timing, and they have a laugh track that goes along with it. So you have to make sure you're hitting the right spot at the right time.
Oh, do they play the laugh track as
what happens actually is the producers will laugh really loud at like everything to mimic the laugh track, because you have to pause because they're going to put that laugh track in, and they, you know, you can't continue on with the scene or it's going to mess up with the laugh track. So they would have anyone who was watching kind of behind the scenes, they'd be like, laugh at every joke really, really loud. So the actors have to sit there and pause almost as if you were on a stage. So it was such a great learning experience to really understand what it's like to work on a multicam. And I definitely have a lot of appreciation for those individuals, because in my opinion, I think comedy is harder than drama. It's way more specific. You need a lot more preparation. You can't really wing it and get through with it. But it was an amazing experience. And then the Kids' Choice Awards was just wild. It was like the Kids' Choice Sports Awards that I think I went to. And so it was like every athlete that was super famous that I had no idea who they were because I didn't follow sports at the time. But it was a really amazing experience to see kids get so excited and just like watch how fans interact with celebrities and stuff like that. At the time, I mean, nobody knew who I was, nobody cared. But for my friends who were on Henry Danger and stuff like that, it was fascinating to just see the power of having this platform.
Is it just like when you go there, is it just is the audience just filled with like thousands of children like screaming all the time?
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyone get slimed?
I did. I watched, was it LeBron? Some really famous basketball player. Definitely, I probably shouldn't speak as to who it is because I really cannot remember, but there was definitely multiple individuals. I think I watched Zendaya get slimed because she was accepting an award. Slimed. Yeah, it was pretty cool. I didn't get slimed. Still on the bucket list, I guess. So
of course. If I saw Zendaya or LeBron James get slimed, I would tell that story all the time.
It was cool, but still, we were in like this arena that they were shooting the award show in, and still, just like the sitcoms and stuff like that, the award shows are highly choreographed. Like it's very specific timing about when is happening, when something's getting cued, how long they have to get signed. Sorry, my tree just turned off. But anyways, it's amazing to see how much preparation goes into that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh, the Kids' Choice Awards. It's a uniquely American event. I mean, they probably do it in the UK.
I'm sure they have something similar for like teen and kid award shows there.
Do they film all that stuff in the same studio, all of the Nickelodeon shows?
They're actually on different sound stages. It's interesting, like usually like big networks will own like a bunch of different sound stages. So I just worked on a show called American Housewife, and it's an ABC show, but we were shooting at the CBS Radford Studios, which was all CBS shows and like a Disney show. So it's really, it just depends, you know, how much space they need, how many sound stages, what's available at the time, what shows are coming off the air, what shows are on hiatus, what shows got canceled, and where's the space. And they kind of just like work in a pattern like that. And for the Kids' Choice Awards, I think they were in some kind of arena, but a lot of the like in between clips and stuff were pre-recorded in different studio settings.
The idea of filling an arena with children is kind of terrifying. I mean, if you're 16, I guess it must seem like a crazy fun thing, especially if you're with all your friends.
Yeah, it was definitely fun.
Is it fun? Because I worked on a kids show when I was like 9 or 10, but it was like an animated thing. But it was so nice to be with like people my age just all the time, every day. And if you're all into the same thing, it must just be so much fun, like working on a Nickelodeon show with a load of people because the entire cast must have been like 16.
Yeah, they were, and it's very interesting in Los Angeles, at least, because there is such a small group of kids that are working full time on shows. They're all in different friend groups. So once you kind of become friends with all of them and you start working on the different shows, like everyone overlaps as to who they know. It's a really small business, but that's definitely, I've spent a lot of time on shows where I have been the only kid, and then there's definitely a different level of fun and comfort that comes from working on shows where there are a lot of kids.
Does that kind of, do you feel like that makes you kind of more mature, like having to work with adults all the time?
It definitely made me grow up a lot faster, and taught me a different level of maturity. There's different expectations when you're working with adults at age 15. You're expected to deliver on the same level that they are and to, you know, act the same and be just as mature. And so I definitely learned a lot of lessons in the etiquette of being on set, and acting like an adult.
Yeah. I think I found that as well. Because I mostly do voice acting nowadays, but I did a little bit of acting when I was younger. I feel like you sort of have to, well, you can't really be childish if you're working, you know.
No.
So when
you're working with so many adults, you know, and so many kids are looking up to you and following you that you have to set an example as if you're an adult. And I think that's an amazing quality to learn, but also it can be kind of a detrimental quality where kids are kind of forced to grow up too fast.
It was interesting what you said earlier about there being kind of friendship groups within all the kids who do acting. Does that mean there's like cliques of kids within like different shows?
Not that it's hard because I knew and was friends with a lot more of those people when I was younger, and we've kind of all grown up and are doing our own things now. But there's definitely, I think when you work on the same studio lot for 10 months out of every year and you're one of like 4 kids on a show, it's the same way. It's like being in high school. You have your friends that you go with, you have the kids that you are in class with, but never really get a chance to, interact with. So I think it's the same nature. Everyone even though we're acting older and have professional jobs, it doesn't mean we're not kids and are going to make friendships our own ways.
And there's so much, there's so much kind of specificity to like acting with children, right? Because you've got to have, if you're a kid, like, I don't know how it works in the US, but in the UK, if you're under 16, you have to have a chaperone. You have to have like an adult that's with you all the time, and you have to have like a tutor, and you have to do like between 3 and 5 hours every day.
Yeah, there's a lot of rules, especially after this whole Me Too movement and stuff like that. They've really cracked down about
Really?
having adults all the time. There's like a new level of protocol, and everyone in a, I'd say in a great way, that everyone is even like over careful, that nothing wants to come off in the wrong way. It's always, an experience that I had, like positive one is one of the first shows I worked on, you have to be mic'd for shows and stuff like that. And, at the time I was like a 15-year-old girl, I was getting mic'd, and, they were very specific about the rules of your mom has to be standing right there. They're verbally like, okay, I'm going to take this. Is this okay? That please help me move this mic. I want you to make sure you're comfortable, like being very, and vocalizing all those different steps to make sure it's completely clear, which I think that's something that you can't go wrong with. But definitely there's a difference when you turn 16 and when you turn 18, and like what roles you can do. And that's why I think you see a lot of shows that cast over 18-year-olds to play 16. That's like every show that I've worked on since I've been 18 has been playing younger.
Right, because you guys can work different hours, and
we can work longer hours. I can work in the middle. I shot a show where they originally cast a bunch of 13-year-olds, realized that they really needed to do all night shoots, and then recast it with 19 and 20-year-olds that were supposed to look 15 and 16, because we shot from 10 p.m. to 4 a.m. for 2 weeks. And you can't do that. That's against the rules with the
I didn't even know there were shows that did that.
Yeah.
Was that because it was set at night, or why?
It was the show Creep Show that I worked on for AMC with the producers of The Walking Dead. It was all at night, and it was easier just to, if every scene had to be at night, they might as well just call us when the sun went down. So that was when our call time was.
Yeah. One of the shows I think about, like considering there's so much kind of red tape with working with kids on TV shows, is like Harry Potter. I mean, that must have been, there's so many kids.
There's so many kids.
Every one of those kids would have had like a chaperone and a tutor.
And they were so young too when they, like the first movie. I mean, but there's also, I think the movie would be a lot different if they had cast 20-year-olds to play really
so
young.
nice.
There's something about casting kids that are that age that you get this like authenticity to the role. As much as I'd say like, yeah, I can be a real 16-year-old, and I'm a 16-year-old sister, so I get it. But like, especially at that young age, like the difference of a 14-year-old playing a 12-year-old and a 12-year-old playing a 12-year-old, there's a difference. And so I think it comes down to budget and to timing and what can work and what can't.
I think I wanted to talk as well about the fact that you juggle your acting with being a university student. And you were saying to me earlier, before we started recording, I think, that you sometimes have to like fly between where you're filming and where you're doing university. Can you talk just a little bit about juggling that?
Of course. So I shot majority of Ozark season 3 and a couple other projects while still going to school at the University of Southern California. And I guess to kind of give some background, I decided from a young age, when I did start getting more successful and working more, that I did not want to sacrifice my education, and that I was going, even if it took extra work, to continue getting my education and learning, because that's something I'm passionate about, and in addition to working. And there's totally been sacrifices that I've had to make on both ends to kind of make it work. But I did have a high school that was very supportive of me working outside of school and shooting. And luckily, because I went to a private school, that was possible. And my parents were really supportive, and my high school really supported the arts. So that's where I really got the foundation to understand how to juggle the two things, because I did have to like miss prom and to go like test for shows and do auditions. And so I kind of got a great foundation of understanding how I best work around navigating schoolwork and career work. And then when I decided to go to USC, I specifically chose the university because they made a commitment to me that they would, in the best of their abilities, work around any scheduling conflicts I have. A lot of universities out there, I feel like, are like, you choose to come to the university and you're committed here and you're committed to your studies. But what's so great about USC is they do have like the #1 cinema school in the entire world, and it's in Los Angeles. And so they have this deep appreciation for the film industry. And so when I said, look, I'm working on this show and I realistically will only be able to be in LA 2 to 3 days a week until October, but I'm willing to do the work and to zoom into class if I have to, and do extra work outside of the classroom to make it possible. They said yes, and other universities said no. And so that was kind of the first step, or the second step that I took. I had this foundation, and then I had the commitment of my school, which I think for other individuals that do want to do both, it's important to have that support from your family, from your friends, and from your university. And then the third part is actually navigating it. It's a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. It takes a different level of commitment, but I think it's made me a stronger student, and it's made me a more passionate actress, with the fact that I know that I'm having to go out of my way to get things done early so that I can show up to the audition and I can show up to set at 6 a.m. and I'm sacrificing things in the process. So
I don't know
so
a lot
far,
yeah,
go ahead.
No, I don't know a lot of students who get up at 6 a.m. You probably get a lot more done.
Yeah, I can't say I get up at 6 a.m. every day, but a lot of times the call times are really early, which means that you have to get there early. But I think the main trick that I would say to people is you have to get your work done early. So get your schoolwork done as in advance, because as probably a lot of people understand, is the entertainment industry runs on no schedule at all. There is no schedule. You can get a call 20 minutes before an audition. You never know when you're going to book a project. You could not work for 3 months and then work every day for the rest of the year. You never know when it's going to change. You're going to get that call. So doing the work in advance for school and just getting it knocked out so you don't have to worry about it will give you such a level of freedom to focus on the acting and being able to really put yourself in the best position to work. So that's, I guess, what I've understood. But, there's days where I'm better at it and days when I'm not. So I'm still learning.
Fair enough. And you do quite an interesting degree, or sorry, you're quite an interesting major, right? Because you do, what do you want to explain?
Yes. So I'm studying a business degree in cinematic arts, which goes along quite nicely with my acting career. Pretty much it's exploring the business side of the entertainment industry, whether that be like agents. For me, I'm more interested in producing and financing, but that's another great aspect about USC. I mean, I can sing their praises all day, but it's a very unique program that not many universities have. And it kind of combines my interests and experience in the entertainment industry while also getting to explore a side that I've never got to experience. And I hope that it will complement my current career, and hopefully in the long run I can do both.
So you learn how to do you learn about the financial side of entertainment and the producing. Some of that must be really interesting. Like, is it a lot of do you get a really good idea about like how much it would cost to do like a certain thing in a production, or?
So I am just a freshman, so my current education is quite limited to more of the basic level stuff. But there's definitely the classes that I know I will be taking are we take a producing for television class.
Okay.
I mean, name another university that, or I mean, I'm sure there are, but something like so specific that we get to work with producers that are from LA that have that experience and shadow on sets. And so it's definitely given me an appreciation for what it really takes to make a show, because it's, as a consumer, as an audience, we get to see all these magical things happen, but then you look at Game of Thrones and how did they finance that? Where did they get the money? How did they break up the budget for each episode, for the costumes, for the cameras, for all of those extras, for the CGI? Like, there's so many different things that go into the budget. And obviously half of producing is that money side, but also it is, I think my favorite part of producing is bringing teams together and bringing individuals together. And I think that's a skill in itself, understanding different people's skill sets and how they could work together, even if it doesn't benefit you, but just like introducing people.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Like thinking about what the best kind of people, but also the best people that would work together on a team. Like could have the best.
Because a lot of times these people are working together for like 6 to 10 years.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous. So you really have to, and that's a skill I think you have to acquire. So I don't know. I'm really excited for the rest of the classes I get to take. I've only started and I have so much to learn.
Do you know, like, I'm just so interested to know like what the most expensive, like hidden cost of like a TV show, like something you wouldn't even think about, like feeding the cast or like.
I mean, I personally, I have no idea, but I mean, you think about lighting, costumes, the paying the cast members, depending what show, I mean, it gets very expensive.
Yeah. Crazy. I'll finish off. I'll just ask you one more question. Just kind of looking to the future, what would your dream role be?
Ooh. Can I have two?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so my first one would definitely be a superhero. Like any Marvel movie, TV show, DC Comics. I grew up watching superheroes, and I think there's that type of role would not only push me physically and mentally and emotionally, like as an actress. I think that's fascinating to kind of develop a character that is likable, but is nuanced in the sense that they have flaws and stuff like that. But also getting to do all that stunt training and learning how to work with CGI. That's always been something. They shoot a lot of the Marvel movies in Atlanta, actually. So I've been, one of my friends works props and stuff like that for a lot of the movies. And so I've gotten to see kind of behind the scenes and how much work goes into making these small scenes and the creativity. And so I think I would love to be a part of a project like that and, get to do my own flips and stunts. And then another dream of mine has always been to do Broadway or something like that. I've been obsessed with it since I was a kid. You don't see this, but on my wall, there's like playbills across the entire wall. I've loved Broadway. I grew up in New York for a little bit. And so that was really my first exposure to the entertainment industry. And so it would be really full circle for me, whether it be theater or musical theater, to get to check that off the bucket list.
Well, I hope you manage to get both of those. That'd be so sick.
Thank you. That would be really cool.
I hope you get to be a superhero on Broadway. That'd be amazing.
That would be worlds colliding. That might be too much.
Stuff, you prance around the stage and shit. It'd be great.
Exactly.
Thanks so much for Zooming. It's not always it's quite annoying being asked for a Zoom. I understand that.
It's honestly easier than writing the answers myself. I'll get like interviews and stuff like that, and because like a lot of the stuff can't be in person, they're like, just fill it out and send it in, and it's writing an essay. So it's fun to just kind of be able to sit down and talk. So I don't mind at all. Thank you for giving me a reason to not wear sweatpants today. So
don't worry about it. I mean, I'm wearing pajamas, but don't worry about it. And everyone, thanks so much for listening. catch you next time on the Student Pages podcast. Thanks so much.